So here's how this field works. When you agreed to come here and be human in all your humanness, you did so that you could have the excitement of creating. You could have the excitement of something not existing, for you desiring it, for you to have a need or a want, and then watch it emerge. That was one of the juiciest parts of coming here and being human. And the universe, the divine, and by the way, whatever word you use for the universe or the divine, God, source, Allah, use what word works for you, for your paradigm. But the source of all life that birthed us onto the planet, this source said, go to the planet, and as you have needs, as you have desires, I will help you. And so there was you and the universe agreed to help. Amazing, right? So as you asked for help, the universe then sent that help to you. And through this field around you, through your receptive energy, that help arrived. But over time, you were taught to resist help in all its forms, right? For the reasons we talked about. And as a result, built up resistance in this field around you. So in order for you to really be able to get back to receiving, to asking and then receiving, what we need to do is really focus on step number 2. Now, unfortunately, if you've ever done any manifestation work or spiritual work, most of what you were taught was probably that in order to get more help, that you need to ask in better ways, in different ways. If you have a law of attraction teacher that you follow and you said, hey, I built this vision board, but it's not working, they probably said, try visualization or try affirmations. The challenge is that all of those things are just different ways of asking. Asking is great, but once you've asked, you've asked. If you don't release resistance, you're not going to be able to receive. And most spiritual teachings out there ignore this step, releasing resistance. So I'm going to show you exactly how to release that resistance. But first, let's talk about step number 1, which is ask. Asking is actually really simple. If you have ever created a vision board or visualized something, you've asked. If you simply felt a desire in your heart, that's all it takes to ask. If you have looked at something outside yourself and thought, oh, it would be really nice to have that, to feel that, that's an ask. And hey, if you set an intention at the beginning of this training, that's an ask. Asking isn't complicated, and the universe doesn't require processes for us to ask. The minute we have a desire in our heart, the universe understands that's a request, and it starts to meet that request for us. The challenge is we often don't believe that we're good enough to receive it, or we believe that we have to do something to have it. And it's all those requirements of enoughness that really limit our ability to receive. Let me tell you how this might show up. I own a business, so I can tell you there's been times, and maybe you've had this as well if you own a business, where if my business wasn't growing the way I wanted to, or something didn't work the way I thought it was supposed to, I conclude that, oh, I must not have enough hustle. I guess I didn't work hard enough. I didn't invest enough, right? If you've ever had one of those thoughts, those are the enough thoughts. So you asked, you saw that you wanted your business to grow, but that limitation was what kept it from happening. Maybe you want to have more romance in your marriage, and you feel like you've asked your partner, you've prayed for it, and it's not happening. And then you conclude, oh, maybe I need to take a course, or maybe I need to do more for that person, or maybe I need to. Just that idea that you have to do more or be more to have that request met, that's where that enoughness comes in. So it isn't that you haven't asked properly, it's that you're still in resistance. Finally, a big one that I see happening for people is with money coming in. And if you've ever thought, oh, I need to be smarter, I need to be something different than you are to have more abundance flow in, that's that enoughness. It's not that you haven't asked properly. It's not that you have to do a better vision board or get more alignment with that money. It's that you're in resistance, and the resistance is what we need to work on. All right, so you're probably thinking, all right, Patty, you keep talking about this resistance, but where does it come from and how can I make it stop? So your resistance comes from a tiny almond-shaped part of your brain called the amygdala. The amygdala is, among other things, your fear center, essentially. Now, you're not going to let some tiny almond-shaped part of your body control your whole destiny, are you? Of course you're not. So now the question is, how do we get the amygdala on board? Because what doesn't work is trying to ignore the amygdala. If you've ever heard messages to just push through your fears or make it happen no matter what, if it's kind of that hustle and grit type of messaging, you were hearing messages that were trying to bypass the fear base of your brain. Or if you've taken any teachings that have told you to, if you just visualize something, it will come, that is trying to spiritually bypass the natural fear that's programmed into your brain. So what we really need to do is actually get the amygdala on board. How do we do that? Well, first, you need to understand how it got to be the way that it is, how it was programmed to believe that receiving is dangerous and resisting receiving is actually safe, so that we can reverse that programming. If you were raised like most people, you probably absorbed the messages that giving and taking care of others and being there for other people and doing things is good. You probably also received messages that if you ask for a lot, that you're selfish, or if you rest, that you're lazy. These messages come through to us in really subtle ways or extreme ways, depending on the kind of people you were raised by. But whether you had the most loving parents like I did, and you just watched them work really hard, and so you equate it, that's what made a good person, or you had parents that maybe didn't support you in really powerful ways that weren't so loving, which then led you to believe that any needs you have are dangerous because they're not going to be met. Either scenario or anything in between programmed your amygdala to see needing and receiving as unsafe, and to see giving and doing and working hard as safe. That was what had happened with Wendy. She actually had very loving parents, or parents that had crossed over that she so much wanted to be connected to. And she grew up seeing that working hard and making a living and being a strong woman made her a good person. And not surprisingly, as she grew up, she didn't really get too many messages that told her anything different. I mean, the world supports people who work hard and, try and make things happen. All the messages around us tell us this is the way to be a successful human. But in fact, we need to balance giving and receiving. If you're wondering, well, wait, why the divine let us come here without this understanding? Just remember, you had this understanding within you. Not just that, but the divine has left us messages of this all over nature to remind us. If you look at the waves, they go out and come in balance. Trees, they grow, the leaves blossom, and then they release them, right? It's the giving and receiving balance that's all around us that we deny. When Wendy started to understand that, that's when she allowed in more of her truth of what she needed. And that's where she got to a place where she understood that the thing that she most needed right now was to receive herself, to receive time off. Now, we're going to talk more about how she got to that place in our next training. But for now, I just want you to check in. Do you recognize yourself in Wendy's story? Because if you do, I can whisper to you that probably rest is going to be one of the main things you need to do, is to start to lower your resistance and allow in more gifts. And even if you don't see yourself in Wendy's story, what I can tell you is if you have ever felt blocked to ideas, creativity, abundance, if you've experienced lack in any form, money, love, energy, those are all symptoms that there's a story running underneath the surface in your amygdala that tells you that receiving is unsafe. And again, this comes back to it just wants you to be with everyone else and be acceptable to everyone else. And this doesn't just affect things like, money, love, and support. This is directly affecting your ability to communicate with your spirit guides and your angels. Because guess what? Your amygdala finds that very scary. Because if you start to reach out to the other side of the veil for advice and support, it might guide you to do things that maybe not everyone around you is going to necessarily like. That scares the amygdala. You know what else scares the amygdala? Things it can't touch and understand, which is our spirit friends. So all these things are at play, and the answer to solving all of this, to allowing in more intuitive guidance so that you are guided on your path even further, allowing in abundance, allowing in love and support, it all comes back to allowing yourself to release this resistance, which means helping the amygdala feel safe.